12 years. That is how long a missing poster has hung inside the Madison County Sheriff's Department in Mississippi, describing a little girl in a turquoise sweater and pink tennis shoes. A little girl who was 2 years old when she disappeared. A little girl whose Amber Alert remains the longest active in the state's history. And in all that time, through searches that stretched across miles of rural land, through pond draggings and K-9 units, through FBI involvement and a $20,000 reward, not a single trace of Myra Lewis has ever been found. Not her clothing, not her shoes, nothing. Madison County Sheriff Randy Tucker has said publicly that he believes the people who were on the property that day know exactly what happened. He has said he believes they know where Myra is. And yet, more than a decade later, when no one has come forward, this is the story of a Saturday morning that ended in silence, and a silence that has never been broken. Before we go any further with Myra's story, I want to ask, where are you watching from right now? Drop your city or town in the comments. Camden, Mississippi is a small, rural community, and Myra's case has reached people all over the country and beyond. Someone watching this might live in an area where answers still exist. Someone watching might remember something they didn't realize mattered. Myra Rena Lewis was born on November 30th, 2011, in Camden, Mississippi, a small, unincorporated community in Madison County. She was one of several children in the Lewis household. Her mother was Erica Lewis. Her father was Gregory Lewis. The family lived on Mount Pilgrim Road, or in a rural area where homes are spread apart and the landscape is defined by woods, fields, and unpaved stretches of country road. By all accounts, Myra was a bright child. Her grandmother, Antoinette Lewis, described her as smart and very obedient, a toddler with the mind of a 3- or 4-year-old. Despite being only 2, Myra would walk by herself to her grandmother's house next door. She was small for her age, roughly 3 feet 1 inch tall and 27 pounds. But she was independent and aware of her surroundings in the way that young children in close-knit rural settings often are. The Lewis family lived modestly. Gregory worked to support the household. Erica was the primary caregiver to the children at home, including a newborn who was approximately 1 month old at the time of Myra's disappearance. There is not a wealth of publicly available detail about Myra's daily life. She was only 2 years old and the family's circumstances were private. But her grandmother's words paint a portrait of a child who was loved and who, by every indication, should have been safe in her own front yard on a Saturday morning. That is who Myra was before March 1st, 2014, not a case number, not a statistic. A 2-year-old girl with black hair styled in braids, brown eyes, and a smile that would come to define the missing posters still hanging to this day. Now that you know who Myra was, not a name on a poster, but a real child with a real family, I want to ask, does she remind you of anyone? A daughter? A niece? A little girl from your neighborhood? Tell me in the comments. Keeping Myra human is how we keep her case alive. It was a Saturday, March 1st, 2014. The morning was unremarkable. In the Lewis home on Mount Pilgrim Road, the household was going about its routine. Gregory Lewis was inside the house, tending to the couple's newborn baby. Erica Lewis was preparing to leave for the grocery store. Outside in the front yard, Myra and her older sister were playing. The yard had a gate and a fence, which provided a sense of enclosure for the children. Myra was dressed in a turquoise sweater with a bear design on the front, off-white or khaki-colored pants, and pink tennis shoes. It was a normal morning by every measure. Sometime between 10:30 and 11 a.m., Erica Lewis left the house to run her errand. Before departing, she told Myra and her sister to go inside the house and stay with their father. But according to later accounts, Erica did not physically ensure that both children followed her instruction. She did not walk them inside. She did not confirm with Gregory that they had come in. She left the property assuming the girls would go indoors as directed. Gregory Lewis, inside the home with the newborn, later stated that only Myra's older sister came inside the house. What happened next remains the central mystery of this case. Throughout the afternoon, Erica and Gregory did not communicate with each other. Neither parent checked in to confirm where Myra was. It was not until approximately 3 p.m., 4 to 5 hours after Myra was last seen, that Erica returned home and asked Gregory about their daughter. Gregory told her he believed Myra had gone with Erica. Erica told Gregory she had left Myra at home. It was in that moment that both parents realized their 2-year-old daughter was missing. Gregory Lewis immediately began searching. He set out on the family's ATV, covering the wooded and rural land around their home. He brought the family's dogs along, hoping they could pick up Myra's scent. But the dogs were household pets. They had no search and rescue training, and they were unable to track the child. After approximately an hour of searching on their own, the family called police. It was now roughly 4 p.m. An estimated 5 to 6 hours since anyone had last confirmed eyes on Myra Lewis. Law enforcement responded quickly once called. Given the rural location and the limited resources of Camden, the local authorities reached out to neighboring departments for support. They also contacted the FBI, at which deployed specialized K-9 units and forensic teams. Officers began combing a 4-square-mile area surrounding the Lewis home. They searched the dense woods, they searched the fields, they searched a pond located directly across from the Lewis property. Dive teams entered the cold water and physically touched the bottom of the pond to ensure Myra was not submerged. Cold water can delay the surfacing of a body, and searchers wanted to be absolutely certain. No sign of Myra was found, not in the pond, not in the woods, not along the roads. The following day, March 2, 2014, Madison County officials issued an Amber Alert across Mississippi and neighboring states. The alert described Myra as an African-American female, 3 feet 1 inch tall, 27 pounds, with black hair in braids and brown eyes, last seen wearing the turquoise bear sweater, khaki pants, and pink shoes. On March 3, 2014, investigating authorities officially classified Myra Lewis's disappearance as a child abduction case. Multiple agencies, local, state, and federal, joined the search effort. Volunteers from the community turned out in large numbers. The search expanded in scope and intensity, and still, nothing turned up. The investigation moved from the fields to the family home itself. Authorities searched the Lewis residence thoroughly, hoping to find clues that might explain what happened. During that search, law enforcement discovered firearms in the home. This discovery would have significant consequences for Erica Lewis, but it would not bring investigators any closer to finding Myra. On March 7, 2014, 6 days after Myra vanished, her mother, Erica Lewis, was arrested. The charges were not directly connected to Myra's disappearance. Erica was taken into custody on a probation violation stemming from a prior welfare fraud conviction. The firearms found during the home search led to an additional charge of being a felon in possession of a firearm. Sheriff Tucker stated publicly that the arrest was not connected to the disappearance. The arrest drew sharp criticism. Myra's family questioned whether it was appropriate for authorities to jail the mother of a missing child in the middle of an active search. Myra's grandmother, Martha Sanders, Erica's mother, expressed frustration, suggesting the arrest felt like a secondary punishment during an already devastating time. On March 10, 2014, the FBI formally added Myra Lewis to their list of most wanted missing persons and announced a reward of up to $20,000 for information regarding her whereabouts. The reward was significant, the coverage was national, and the FBI disseminated information to its field offices in Tennessee, Alabama, and Louisiana. On March 13, 2014, Divers researched the pond across from the Lewis home. Once again, they found nothing. Despite the massive multi-agency response, no physical evidence was recovered. No witness came forward with a sighting. No credible tip materialized. The investigation was hitting walls on every front. At this point, investigators had tracking dogs that refused to leave the yard, a cadaver dog that alerted to the back of an ATV on the property, and a 4 to 5 hour window where no one could account for a 2-year-old child. And yet no physical evidence was found anywhere. What is your read on this case so far? What do you think happened to Myra? Drop your theory in the comments. Several details from the early investigation troubled authorities, details that, in the years since, Madison County Sheriff Randy Tucker has spoken about with increasing candor. When professional K-9 units were brought to the property, the tracking dog's behavior was notable. The dog refused to leave the immediate area of the front yard where Myra had been playing that morning. In a typical missing person search, a tracking dog will follow a scent trail away from the last known location. This dog did not. It stayed in the yard, circling the area but not indicating a path leading away from the property. More troubling still, a cadaver dog, trained to detect the scent of human remains, alerted to the back of a side-by-side ATV on the Lewis property. Sheriff Tucker has described this as very strange, noting there was no clear explanation for why a cadaver dog would alert to that vehicle. Searchers continued for days. They dragged additional ponds. They searched through dense woodland. They even examined recent burial sites at churches in the surrounding area. Volunteers and law enforcement officers from local, state, and federal agencies all participated. Investigators also searched the family's vehicles, even confiscating one to conduct a more thorough examination. Nothing conclusive was found, and the family maintained from the outset that Myra had been abducted, snatched from the rural road by a stranger. But investigators found no evidence of an outside intruder, no signs of a struggle, no witnesses reporting unfamiliar vehicles in the area, no footprints or physical evidence suggesting someone had entered the property and taken the child. In May 2014, after 79 days in jail on the probation violation, Erica Lewis was released. Upon her release, the family continued to assert publicly that Myra had been kidnapped. Gregory Lewis told reporters he was also fighting to regain custody of the couple's other children, who had been removed from the home by the Department of Human Services after the residence was described as unsuitable for children. In the months that followed, the investigation produced no breakthroughs. Lacking leads, in October 2014, the Madison County Sheriff's Department took the unusual step of consulting psychics through an organization called Find Me, which deployed approximately 30 volunteer psychics to work the case remotely. The psychics generated a report that included 6 GPS coordinates of Myra's possible whereabouts. Sheriff Tucker followed up on every location suggested. None yielded evidence. 1 year after Myra's disappearance, in March 2015, the Lewis family made a public appeal to help find their daughter. Erica Lewis spoke to reporters, pleading for Myra's return. The family also criticized the delay in issuing the Amber Alert, arguing that if it had been released sooner, on the day Myra disappeared rather than the following day, there would have been a better chance of finding her. The appeal generated renewed media attention, but no new leads. For more than 12 years now, Myra Lewis's family has waited for answers that have never come. An entire childhood has passed in that silence. If you have ever waited for news that never arrived, about someone you loved, about something you couldn't control, then you know what that kind of waiting does to a person. If that resonates with you, I want to hear your story in the comments. That kind of endurance deserves to be recognized. As the years passed, the case grew colder, but it never closed. Each anniversary of Myra's disappearance was marked by local media and by Sheriff Tucker himself, who made a point of speaking publicly about the case year after year. In 2018, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released an age-progressed photograph of Myra showing what she might look like at age 6. The image was circulated nationally in hopes that someone somewhere might recognize the child. Tips came in from across the country and even from other nations, people who had seen the case online and believed they might have spotted Myra. None of the tips led to a breakthrough. By 2022, 8 years after the disappearance, Sheriff Tucker spoke bluntly about where the case stood. He told reporters that his department was no closer to finding Myra than they had been on the day she vanished. He described the case as the prototypical whodunit. He also noted that the Lewis family, Erica and Gregory, had left Camden entirely. They had abandoned the home on Mount Pilgrim Road, the same home where Myra was last seen. Efforts by law enforcement and journalists to locate the family had been unsuccessful. Tucker described the parents as not very forthcoming with police over the years. He also noted that while tips continued to come in, none had produced actionable information. In the same 2022 interviews, Tucker laid out the scope of what his department had done. They had conducted foot searches. They had searched lakes. They had dug in the ground. They had searched trucks and tractor trailers. They had reviewed surveillance footage from stores in the area around the time of the disappearance. Every available resource had been exhausted. And yet someone, Tucker insisted, knew the truth. In 2021, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released another age-progressed image of Myra, this time showing what she might look like at age 10. The release was part of an ongoing effort to keep her case in the public eye. Then, in early 2025, something shifted, not in the evidence, but in the public record. Sheriff Tucker sat down for an interview on the Investigation Homicide podcast and spoke with unprecedented detail about his beliefs regarding what happened to Myra Lewis. We are about to reach the most candid public statements any official has ever made about this case. But before I share what the sheriff said, what do you think happened? What do you think investigators have been unable to prove? Drop your guess in the comments before you keep watching. On the podcast, Tucker revisited the details that had troubled him from the very first day. He spoke about the tracking dog that would not leave the yard. He spoke about the cadaver dog alerting to the ATV. He spoke about the inconsistencies in the family's statements, including conflicting accounts about whether Myra had attended school the day before she disappeared, and what he described as unusual behavior from family members in the immediate aftermath and in the years since. And then Tucker said what he had been building toward for over a decade. He stated that he firmly believed, to that very day, that the people who were on the property the day Myra disappeared know exactly what happened. He said he believed they know where Myra is. He said he believed they know the circumstances surrounding her disappearance. He went further still. Tucker appealed directly to Erica Lewis. He said he had no doubt in his mind that Erica knows what happened. He described a moment during the investigation when he believed Erica had been close to telling the truth, close to doing the right thing, but that Gregory, he believed, had held her back. Tucker described Gregory Lewis as an intelligent man and suggested he had been an intimidating factor preventing Erica from coming forward. These were extraordinary public statements from a sitting sheriff about an active case. Tucker acknowledged the frustration of marking each anniversary with no new information to offer, but he was clear. This case, in his view, was not a stranger abduction. The answers, he believed, lay within a very small circle of people. Despite these beliefs, no charges have ever been filed in connection with Myra's disappearance. Without physical evidence, without a body, without forensic proof, without a confession, the case remains an open investigation. The presumption of innocence applies. No one has been formally accused. As of 2026, Myra Lewis's case remains active. She would be 14 years old now. The missing posters at the Madison County Sheriff's Department still show the face of a 2-year-old in a turquoise sweater, frozen in time. The FBI's $20,000 reward remains available for information leading to her whereabouts. The Amber Alert, Mississippi's longest standing, has never been canceled. The home on Mount Pilgrim Road sits abandoned, buried under tree vines and overgrown grass. The family that lived there is gone. The community that searched for Myra still remembers her. And the investigators who spent days combing miles of rural Mississippi landscape have never stopped waiting for the one piece of information that could finally explain what happened on that Saturday morning in March 2014. Myra Rena Lewis, born November 30th, 2011. Last seen March 1st, 2014, 2 years old, turquoise sweater with a bear on the front, pink tennis shoes, black hair in braids, brown eyes, gone. If you have any information, anything at all, about Myra Lewis's disappearance, please contact the Madison County Sheriff's Office at 601-859-2345, the Mississippi Highway Patrol at 855-642-5378, or your local FBI field office. You can also submit an anonymous tip to the FBI online. The $20,000 reward remains available. Every case deserves an answer. Every family deserves the truth. If Myra's story stayed with you, if her face is one you will not forget, then please share this video, subscribe to Echo of Evidence, and keep saying her name. Because the moment we stop talking about Myra Lewis is the moment whoever knows the truth believes they have gotten away with it. Do not let them believe that.